Welcome back to the On the Pitch podcast with your host, Bridger Pretz. Today, we're going to be talking about USL's new USL Premier League, and we're going to talk about promotion and relegation in America. Stay tuned. Sponsored by Daily Culture Kombucha. Based right here in Kansas City, Daily Culture brews organic, small batch kombucha with purpose, turning a personal experiment into a healthier drink for the whole community. Their kombucha is alive with probiotics, beneficial acids, and real ingredients. No artificial flavors and no shortcuts. It's bold, refreshing, and crafted to support your gut while actually tasting great. Welcome to the culture. Let's drink better with Daily Culture Kombucha. I'm actually right now sipping on the hazy mango kombucha, and it is delicious. Check them out at dailyculturekombucha.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the On the Pitch podcast with your host, Bridger Pretz. Today just dropped that the United Soccer League, or USL, has just dropped a new division called the USL Premier, considered the Division 1 of the USL three-tiered pyramid that's going to be dropping in 2028. So if you're living under a rock, maybe you haven't seen it, or if you're not really a big soccer fan, you would know that MLS is a non-promotion relegation system. It is a frozen system. Nobody moves up, nobody moves down, right? No teams go away. They just change owners, and they're basically owned by MLS. USL is the United Soccer League, which is a league that has been going on for a long time now and has basically been the second division of American pro soccer here in America. Now, USL, right around the World Cup, decided that they were going to push for promotion and relegation starting in 2028. And then their push for doing that is they were going to need to build a new Division 1 level league that was going to be able to compete or just go with side by side with MLS. It's not going to be taking over MLS. MLS is still going to continue to be its own thing, but USL is basically starting its own league to help compete that, and then, of course, add promotion and relegation here in America. Now, promotion and relegation has been something that a lot of people have been pushing for in American soccer for God knows however. It's been around forever in Europe as well as South America and Asia, basically everywhere in the world besides the North American continent. And I want to say maybe India and Australia have a form of promotion and relegation, whether it be 3 teams down and 3 teams up every year, or maybe 2 teams down with a third team having a playoff, moving up and down. But basically, every country besides America has promotion and relegation in their professional leagues. And it's not just for soccer. It's also for basketball, it's for hockey, it's for all the other leagues. Basically, it's the one style that proves that if you have a bad season, you get punished. If you have a good season in a lower league, you get promoted, you get pushed up, you get rewarded for how good of a season you have. In America, we do not have that. We have a closed system that basically you could be terrible every single year and nothing happens to you. MLS doesn't really care too much about the draft picks or anything like that anymore. So there's really nothing to it. If you have a bad year, you have a bad year. There's nothing really that happens to you. Maybe you make a little bit less money, but you're not really punished for having a terrible year. And USL wants to change that. They want to push the envelope. They want to change American soccer, and adding promotion relegation in smaller leagues like this is, I think, a huge boost to the American soccer landscape, because this is going to push MLS to want to do something different, right? So I'll go ahead and read this article for you. We'll talk a little bit about it and what it has to do with American soccer, but we'll talk about the USL Premier Division 1, and this was posted today. So it says the United Soccer League today announced the USL Premier as the official name of its Division 1 men's professional league and unveiled a new structure for its men's pathway, establishing an interconnected 3-tier framework designed to support long-term growth, competitive integrity, and the introduction of promotion and relegation. USL Premier will serve as the top tier of a united men's professional pathway that also includes the USL Championship, which is what they've had for a long time, and USL League 1. They are not adding USL League 2 into this because USL League 2 is considered a summer off-season league, mostly for college kids. As part of its structure, the USL is aligning competitive formats across divisions to support balanced schedules, credible movement, and future expansion. Under the future league structure, the USL is establishing the following initial framework, which could evolve over time. So this isn't officially set in stone of how they're going to do it, but this is what they posted today. So it'll go the USL Premier Division 1, USL Championship Division 2, and USL League 1 Division 3. USL Premier will operate as a single national table with a long-term target of 20 clubs, and it's scheduled to launch in 2028. The USL Championship will also operate as a single national table with 20 clubs, strengthening competitive consistency and national reach. And then USL League One will continue to grow nationally while organizing competitive regionally, allowing clubs to compete closer to home and build local rivalries. So your Division 3, your USL League 1 will be more regional, right? You'll have a West Coast, you'll have a Central, you'll have a North, you'll have an East, you'll have a South, all of that. So those will be more like conferences and they'll all play in, whereas the Premier and USL would be a national league where you could potentially have teams from New York playing against teams from California in regular season games, things like that. Kind of like how MLS is right now. MLS is a national table, but you also have two divisions where they have to play their division games and they get to play teams from other divisions as well. So obviously, your USL Premier is going to be your top league that you're promoting for. And I like how they're using Premier. They're kind of stealing that a little bit from the Premier League, but I think it's a smart way to word it. In the USL Championship, Division 2, kind of like how the English Championship calls their stuff the championship as well, which is really funny because you talk to American fans who maybe aren't big soccer people and you say, yeah, this team's in the championship. Oh, they're like one of the best? No, well, they're in the second tier. Well, why do they call it the championship? Well, I don't really know because it used to be called the English Championship back until the Premier League was formed as the main league above it. So I'll continue to read here and then we can talk a little bit more about it. As the structure takes shape alongside the launch of USL Premier, the USL will introduce America's first promotion and relegation system, creating a connected, merit-based professional pathway that rewards performances, raises the level of competition across all divisions, and delivers more matches of consequence for clubs, players, fans, and partners. USL is currently reviewing applications for clubs interested in competing in the USL Premier and will announce the league's inaugural members at a later date. Soccer in the United States is entering a pivotal period fueled by rising participation and the country's role as host of major global sporting events, including the 2026 FIFA World Cup and the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles. This national spotlight is expected to deepen fans' engagement, introduce new audiences to the sport, and drive demand for professional soccer in communities across the country, an opportunity the USL is uniquely positioned to capture. Building on this momentum, Tony Scholes, current chief football officer of the English Premier League, will join USL Premier as president upon completing his responsibilities in England this summer. Now, if you are a soccer fan and you like the way that the German league is, the Spanish league, the English Premier League, and all that system, and you're seeing this, you should be freaking pumped. Okay. They're actually bringing in guys who have worked in the Premier League to come and run our system and run it the way it's supposed to. So he's going to understand the finances part of it. Obviously, soccer in England is way more popular than soccer here in America. So you're going to have to be dealing with that, right? But I think if he's understood, seeing teams moving up and down the tables and going, from the Premier League, from the Championship to League One to League Two, he's going to understand that and he's going to know what to talk about, what to do, and how to help those teams get to that next level and also stay in that level and grow at that level. Do I think that USL Premier is going to be bigger than MLS in 2018 or 2028? No. It's still not going to be the number one league here in America. I think MLS is still going to have that stranglehold over soccer here in America just because it basically has been soccer in America since 1998 or 1994, whenever it started. MLS really didn't do anything until about 2000, right? Because no one really was watching in 94, but it started then. And so obviously having promotion and relegation is the first time we've ever done anything like this is going to be huge for sports here in America. This is the first time we've ever tried it. As far as I know, the NASL never did it. They were a closed league that folded due to money constraints. The old NASL that started, they tried to revive and come back in the early or in 2010, 2009. It wound up folding as well. So you're seeing that a lot of times people were worried about promotion and relegation because they didn't think that the American soccer fan was, one, loyal enough, loved the sport enough, or smart enough to kind of understand that there's lower divisions and they can move up and down. I think now with how much more popular soccer is getting here in America, this is the perfect time to do it, especially right after a World Cup. I mean, a lot of people don't realize this, but MLS started because we hosted the 1994 World Cup. We did not have a professional league whenever we put in to host the 1994 World Cup. And of course, for us to be able to do it, we had to have our own men's professional league. And that's why MLS got started. With the World Cup coming back around, pushing for promotion relegation in a league is super smart. The timing of it is super smart. And like they also mentioned the Olympic Games, a lot of people forget about the Olympic Games having soccer. A lot of people don't tend to care too much about that tournament. But it is a huge, huge tournament, especially for younger players, especially for their, trying to get that notoriety and win something for your country. It's basically like a U23 World Cup with a couple of rules that are allowing some older players. So the announcement of them having officially naming this league and it'll become the Division One team is super exciting. And the fact that it's going to be a national table and it's launching in 2028 and it's going to have a tier of going from promotion and relegation and going up and down is going to be very, very huge. So we're going to move on to what promotion and relegation can now do for American soccer and how we think it'll grow right after this. This podcast is brought to you by LP Digital. LP Digital is a locally owned photography and videography business in Columbia, Missouri. It was started by University of Missouri journalism students Isaiah Lopez and Joseph Patton. Their mission is to bring local stories to life through stunning high-quality visuals that fit any budget. Because at LP Digital, everyone deserves to see themselves smile. Whether it's capturing life's biggest moments or telling your unique story, they're here to make it happen. Check them out on Instagram and Facebook at LP Digital 2026 and send them a message to find the perfect price for you. In the first time ever in American League, promotion and relegation is now going to be a part of American soccer. This is the first time something like this has ever come to any American league, as far as I know. I've especially definitely not in the soccer world. Like I had mentioned earlier, they had the NASL while it was going. USL's championship has always been a part, but it's always been a closed system that has never had any movement between the teams, unless you maybe had an expansion team or you moved up through financial means. This time, it actually is going to be based on your level of play, right? This will align us with the global soccer world. This is how they do things in England. This is how they do things in Europe. This is how they do things in Asia. This is how they do things in South America. We are one of the only countries that does not do this. And why is that? Again, we talked about earlier, soccer in America is still only one of maybe the top 4 sports. There's an article that came out not too long ago that actually listed soccer as the number 3 most popular sport here in America. That wasn't meaning MLS is the most popular league in America. It was saying that soccer is the third most popular sport here in America. A lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a lot of people who watch the Premier League, Bundesliga, and Liga MX, Spanish leagues, right? People are watching soccer more now than they ever have in history, right? Soccer is growing in America and it's only getting bigger. If NBA keeps doing what it's doing with the way the games are, too many games, things like that, I feel like soccer could overtake it. Maybe not in 5, 10, 15 years, but 20, 30 years down the line, we'll see how this goes, right? Why are they making the move? Like I said, they're making the move because right now, with the World Cup coming and the Olympic Games coming, this is the perfect time to cash in and really grow those up and coming and new fans, especially for these smaller communities that maybe don't have an MLS team, right? I remember before St. Louis got St. Louis City SC, they got St. Louis FC, which was in the championship for a long time. I went to a lot of the games, went one with my mom. It was a great experience. It was a good level of play, but it wasn't MLS, right? So it was smaller fans, smaller venues, smaller places, smaller markets that it was hitting, but it was hitting those markets that maybe aren't big enough to have an MLS team, or they're big enough to have an MLS team. They just don't have the right ownership or the money to be able to get an MLS team. Because a lot of people don't realize this. David Beckham was able to get into Miami with $25 million, but that was because of a deal that he signed whenever he signed for MLS back in the early 2000s. Right now, to get an MLS team, it costs you probably anywhere between $1 billion, $1 to $2 billion to start a team when it comes to getting your rights reserved to get a team, to be able to build your stadium, build your team, build your roster, all the fees, lawyers, all of that stuff. It's $1 billion to start a team here in America. That's crazy, because the way they do it in Europe, you'd obviously start at like the 8th tier or something like that and work your way up. You don't just get to buy your way in at the top level just because you're a billionaire. You actually have to earn it, which a lot of people are wanting to push for. I think honestly, what this could do for the game is it makes the entire season important, right? How many times have you seen an MLS game where your team is out of the playoffs and they still have like 10 games left to play and they basically mean nothing because you're not going to get relegated and you're also not going to make the playoffs. So you just play all these pointless games that literally don't mean anything. Whereas now, every single game is going to matter. Every single game is going to decide whether you go up or you go down or you stay, right? Every game is now going to be very important. This is going to drive more investment. It's going to drive fans to actually come to more games, especially later in the season, depending on where your season is and how it's going. It'll impact clubs and communities with more important games, brings more fans, it brings more investment. It brings more excitement to the playoffs, to every game, to every home game, to every away game. It strengthens the connection between the clubs and their communities because now everyone's fighting together to stay up, to stop from going down, to go into the playoffs, to go into, maybe even win a championship, whatever it is. It's going to bring more eyeballs because now all the games matter, right? Nobody cares about a Sporting Kansas City versus Chicago Fire FC when both teams are 15th and 16th in the division, right? No one cares about that game. But if they're both 17 and 18 and potentially going down, they would care. Now, I don't know about how they plan to do the promotion and relegation. I don't know if it's going to be one team up automatic, if it's two teams, if they still plan to do the playoffs. I would assume that because we are American and we love playoffs, it's going to stick with in the USL Premier Division 1. They're probably going to stick with the playoff format for maybe like a top 6 or a top 8, whatever it would be there. I could see that still happening. What I don't know is if they're wanting to do 20 teams in the top, 20 teams in the championship, and then the USL League 1 being whatever the regional format would be, I would assume that they're probably not going to go pretty crazy with the promotion relegation on the first couple of years. I would think, if I was a betting man, I would think that the team that finishes bottom of the USL Premier Division 1 would probably be an automatic bid to go down. I think that the team that finishes 19th could do some kind of relegation playoff like what they do in Germany with maybe the team that finishes second in the USL Championship or potentially finishes runner up in the USL Championship if they still plan to do playoffs. I would like that system. I think what it would do is if you make it to the championship of the USL Championship, or sorry, you make it to the final of the USL Championship playoffs, I think even if you lose, you could still have something to fight for if you make it all the way that far. Now you'd have to play a USL Premier team, which is probably going to be a higher level. We don't know the teams yet. We don't know what the pay is going to be, the salary caps, all of that thing. But I would assume that they're going to have higher quality if they're in the Premier Division. The first couple of years, it's probably going to be pretty equal. The Championship and the Premier Division are probably going to be pretty close to level when it comes to the players and salaries and things like that. And then sooner or later, over time, that will change. There will become a discrepancy. There will be growth. There will be higher wages and things like that. So you'll see a difference in level after that. But I think these first couple of years, it could be anybody. We have no idea who would go up and who would go down because all the teams are probably going to be pretty similar until later on whenever they establish themselves. So I would like to see that. I think keeping playoffs, especially in American sports, I like it. I like a playoff. I like a team that, they finished eighth. They fought their way, they got to the playoffs, and then all of a sudden they make a run to the championship because they got hot at the right time. I love that. Coaching high school soccer, being in college soccer as well. I love an underdog. I love people who make the run and they go all the way to the final. I think that's great. I think we need to keep that. That stuff is exciting. That stuff is fun. I think we are not to that point yet as American soccer fans, or at least the casuals who maybe aren't a big soccer fan people and they don't like you're the winner after 30 some odd games. I think keeping playoffs will keep it exciting, plus help with TV ratings. So, okay, USL Premier Division 1, if you finished 20th, you go down automatically. You switch places with the USL Championship winner. USL Premier number 19 would then have to play let's just do a neutral ground home, or just a home game or a neutral ground or something like that, playoff game between the USL Championship runner-up and the team that was 19th in the Premier Division. I think that would be exciting. Throw that game on ESPN Plus or throw that game on TV, and you will get eyeballs, right? Now, the one where it gets a little bit tricky is the USL League 1 and how that they would get into the championship, because I know they're going to do a regional format and they'll do a national footprint, obviously, with wanting to have multiple divisions spread across the entire nation. Now, how would they plan to do playoffs? I would assume that, again, USL League One is going to keep playoffs with all the divisions, and you could have the team that finishes bottom of the USL Championship would just trade places with the winner of the USL League One playoffs. So you're only getting one team moving up every year, or two down from the USL Premier, potentially two up from the USL Championship, potentially with one down. So again, we're not going crazy and doing three teams, two teams automatic, four teams, whatever it is, because again, this is new. This is going to be something that is going to be growing and developing here in America, because we've never done it before. We do not have the 100-year-old fans of these lower division teams like they do over in Europe. We really don't. How many? I mean, there's people who, I mean, Schalke, who's in the second division in Germany, still gets 60,000 people in their stadiums every game, right? We do not have those kind of fans yet. I think is something that we can get to. It's something that we can grow and see about potentially in the future, but we're not there yet. So maybe not doing two automatic or three automatic teams going down to start would help establish those teams and build up their fan bases and build up those rivalries and build up those programs so they can go up and down. I think if we try and go too much too soon, it'll fold. It won't work. So what we need to do is we need to, as soccer fans, realize that we are not England, we are not Germany, we are not Spain. We don't need to be exactly like them. We can be a little different while also using some of their concepts. All right. So I think a one team coming up from USL League One and one team coming down from USL Championship is going to be better than if we try to do some kind of two or three team. Okay. The USL Championship, a lot of those teams are already established. They've been around for a long time. I don't know how many of them are going to try and get up to the USL Premier. I'm assuming a lot of those teams, especially the bigger ones, are going to push up to get there. I don't think any MLS teams are going to want to leave the MLS and join the USL, even though it has Pro Rel. I don't see anybody doing that because, again, those owners have already invested so much money into those teams that they're not going to want to risk it, right? So is USL Premier Division 1 going to be the same quality as MLS or anything like that? No, it's not. And it's not going to be for a while. And that is okay, because what they're doing is going to help the growth of the game for the long run. Whereas MLS at some point is going to become stale. They've already basically tapped out on all the markets that they can go to. There's not a ton of new expansion teams that are going to be coming up to MLS. Obviously, San Diego just started. But again, another team in LA, cool, great. There's an entire middle part of the country that still hasn't been tapped yet. I mean, when St. Louis just got a team like 2 years ago. So the expansion into MLS is slowing down, and USL is realizing that. They are tapping into the markets that MLS won't touch, and it's going to be to their detriment. This is exciting. This is something that I've wanted for a really, really long time. I'm not a huge MLS watcher, and honestly, I'm not a huge USL watcher, but now I might be, because now they are actually showing that they want to push and change things and grow soccer here in America, whereas MLS is just considered about where can we find the most people by number, who's got the most money to buy a team, and let's pay MLS and Big Daddy Garber and do all that so that he can continue to make money and the league continues to stagnate. They are going to be freaking out when people like Messi leave the league, because right now they're still in that old style of bring in the old guy who's big time. He's going to bring butts and seats. But what happens when he leaves? Right? They're not building the fan bases of these smaller communities that want teams. USL is doing that. They are filling these gaps. And you are going to see some pretty cool stories from guys moving up from USL League One to potentially USL Premier. And I'm here for it. I think it's going to be great. Just to, you know, love to see how that grows. I mean, again, it's not till 2028, so we still have 2 years. We still have the World Cup this summer to see how it goes from there. Any new information, I'm sure it'll be coming out here in the next couple of months. I'm excited to see what teams join the USL Premier Division One. I'm excited to see what teams are gonna, show up in the USL League One, and what teams are gonna be going there. And I'm excited to see how they're actually gonna do promotion and relegation. This was just my guess on how they would do it. If I was commissioner, that's probably how I would do it. I'd want to be a little bit more conservative with it at first, because again, this is something that we have never done before. We don't need to jump headfirst into it. We could dip our toes in a little bit and see how it goes, see what's working, see what's not working. We don't have to be like Europe all the time. This is a right step forward to push more towards that, but we are not there yet. And this is a good step forward. So thank you so much for coming in to the On the Pitch podcast. Make sure you follow, like, share, subscribe, do all those things. Check out all of my links down here at the bottom. Make sure you check out LP Digital. Make sure you check out crooksimage.com, and make sure you check out dailyculturekombucha.com. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.